welcome to this week's broadcast of This Week in Science. We are here to talk with you about science. We're glad you're here. Thank you for being here. I hope our audio's good. Blair, how you doing?
Oh, I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing really well, I guess. You know, the Norwegian phrase that is some Norwegians are like, what is that phrase? I don't know. But I guess it's older people in Norway who use it. It's like, I'm up and not crying.
Yeah.
So there we go. I'm up and, this is now. Up and not crying. It's good. We're going to do the show now. This is the live broadcast. So if we make mistakes, if there are technical difficulties, they will be edited out for our podcast. So if you like the edited version, make sure that you subscribe to This Week in Science on any podcast directory that you enjoy. Go look for us, our website, twis.org. That's where you go. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. But now it's time to start the show. Yeah? We ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So good to see everybody who's in here already. Let's go. Let's make it so. Starting this show in 3, 2. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 1046, recorded on Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. Just a little duct tape and science. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight we will fill your head with flies, roadkill, and microphones. But first, disclaimer. Some days are better than others. We hope that all of your days make you think of This Week in Science. Coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kiki.
And a good science to you too, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. We are back again, yes, to talk about science and all the things that science connects with in our lives. And please do not comment. TWIS never used to talk about politics. You just go back to the science again on the comments wherever you're listening, because TWIS has always involved politics with the science, because science is inherently political as a civic discipline and endeavor. It influences policy and is influenced by policy. So, and with
also, science costs money. And money
and there's money, so there's budget, and there's this, and there's all sorts of things that are involved. So I'm sorry if all you want is to hear the great science stories, but if we do not also talk about how policy and politics are influencing and impacting science and the ability of our country to do science, then there won't be science for us to talk about eventually. So, I mean, we have to talk about all this.
So, two things.
And I'm sorry, this is off the top of frustration. So, anyway.
One, if you don't want politics in your science, go back, 30 years. But also, just don't go away. Just go away. Two, we're not for you, basically, is what I'm trying to say, because it is our job to be responsible in the way that we report science, and also to speak passionately about the things that we care about. And so hopefully that's why you're listening to us, is you want to hear our opinions. We're not bringing sanitized stories without opinions either. Just opinion is part of our show. But two, I would love to be able to host a science show that doesn't have to talk about systemic dismantling of truth, the hoisting of funds away from life-saving research. I would love to not have those conversations, but here we are. We need to have them, and so we will have them.
We will have them so that we can have the fun conversations about random invertebrate sex acts or whatever it happens to be,
or shrew feet. That's, you
can't, it's chocolate and peanut butter. You cannot have one without the other. So, if you love science, we hope that you will stay with us and hear what we have to say, agree with us or not, but understand that that is why we say the things that we do. Where we're coming from is a place of considered care, as you said, Blair, about a thing that we're passionate about.
Yeah. If you want somebody to read you publications or press releases, usually with quite a few errors, just have AI do that.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, there are so many options with zero human input these days.
Ask Alexa if that's what you want. If you want opinions in your science, you want some exploration, you want some strong stances, then we're the right people.
As Paul Disney says, there's no going back. Nope. This is what we are. This is who we are. Thank you for being here. All of you who are with us, watching the show, enjoying the show. Just keep it up. We'll keep it up. It's important, and we hope that you do appreciate how we talk about science on the show. Tonight on the show, I have got a lot of updates at the top of the hour that are related to kind of ongoing stories that we've discussed and continue to discuss. I've also got lanternflies, the aforementioned flies in the story. Also getting rid of some worms around the globe. Some SpaceX AI dreams, and maybe defining consciousness. Do we need to? Let's talk about that. Blair.
Oh, goodness. That's always a good start.
Yeah. What's in the animal corner?
Oh, I brought Roadkill, of course. I brought caterpillar headphones and shrew feet.
Shrew feet.
Yeah. A
well,
banner in the animal corner.
Got shrew feet.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know. Is it like chicken feet and a wishes brew? I don't.
It's just shrew feet. All right. It's exactly what it sounds like. Okay. They are feet of shrews. That is the science that I brought.
So simple. Why do I make it more complicated?
It's not a metaphor. They're not an ingredient in a stew. They're just feet still attached to the shrews.
Okay, so you're going to be dangling little shrews in front of us soon. Everyone, if you are interested, before we get into the show here, I want to remind you that subscribing to TWIS on the platforms where we broadcast live every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific time-ish, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, you can subscribe. You can be notified when we go live, when we have new videos that come out. And that's great. But you can also find us when you are not able to watch live. If you subscribe to the podcast, that'll get delivered to you wherever you listen to your podcasts. So look for This Week in Science in your favorite podcast directory if you want more information about the show notes, links to stories, all that kind of stuff. TWIS.org is our website. And we do hope that while you're at our website, you also check out our Patreon and Zazzle stores so that you can help support this show in an ongoing fashion. Is it time for the science?
Oh, it's time. Give me it.
Woo-hoo! I'm gonna give you science. NASA. Let's start with NASA. NASA's Artemis II mission to the moon with a manned craft is not happening right now. They had rolled the Artemis spacecraft, the the rocket out to the launch pad. It's been there. There are a bunch of NASA social people covering that like a week or so ago. And it was very exciting to see it all come out and be ready. But, they had to do wet tests and make sure that everything is working the way it should be working. And about T minus 5 minutes until the quote unquote launch, which it wouldn't have been a launch because it would have stopped then because it was just a test. About T minus 5 minutes into it, the automated systems found a hydrogen leak. And so they said, nope. And it shut down automatically. And now NASA has pushed the launch until potentially sometime in March. The astronauts who were in isolation for the possibility of a launch around February 8th are now going to be taken out of isolation. So they don't need to be quarantined any longer. And they're going to be waiting, still training, making sure they've got everything they need to know for the mission. But at the same time, we are not going to be looking at any launch until March at the earliest because they have to do more tests, look at the results of the wet launch test to find out whether or not they, what has gone wrong and where things need to be fixed, how it needs to be fixed. And so if it is an easy fix, that'll be quick and easy and no problem, but it could be something else. There was also an issue outside of the liquid hydrogen system. So the hydrogen leak apparently is somewhere in an interface used to route the propellant to the rocket's core stage. That was a problem before that engineers were working on, and that seems to be an issue still. There was also a crew door hatch issue. There was a leak, and they had tightened some stuff up and replaced some stuff. And so that also was part of something, the issues that delayed the wet test itself. But now we are at a point where there needs to be troubleshooting. There needs to be a lot of work to make sure that everything is going to be safe, not just because it's a rocket launch, but because there are going to be people on it.
Yeah.
It's not manned. I actually, in my head, I think I went backwards. I was going to say crude. And then in my head, I was like, no, you're supposed to use that other word. And I said manned instead of, man and woman.
Human.
It's human. It's crude. I am crude. I apologize for that.
How rude and crude.
I apologize for that lexical flub, the oversight. But yes, it's crude.
So I don't know if you said, but I just Googled how long the quarantine is. And it's 14 days. So I think what I find interesting about that is that that's not as long as I thought it would be, first of all.
No.
But also in the context of what you just reported, that they thought they were good enough to go to put everyone in quarantine. But
they've been in quarantine for over a week already.
Right. And just now they're like, oh, it's not ready. Like if I was going into space and I had a 14-day quarantine, I would not want to go into quarantine until everything tested clear. I understand this is a for-profit company, so it's a little different. And so they're trying to make deadlines and they're trying to like maximize profit. What's the profit? I don't know.
It's not just that. This is a government. This is NASA. So this is NASA's mission. They are using a SpaceX rocket.
Right.
But it is a NASA mission. So this whole thing is they're trying to do a choreography and a run of show that makes the most sense for all the people involved. You've got multiple moving parts. And while you might like to test everything and go, yes, everything's ready, and then you put the astronauts in quarantine for 2 weeks, what happens if a rat comes and nibbles on something? Right. A bird puts a nest somewhere? Because you've got that rocket.
So I guess that's my question is like, how sure were they before I guess that's my point, is like, yes, I expect ongoing tests throughout those 2 weeks. Absolutely.
Sure enough?
Right? Yes. So that's my question. How sure was the sure enough to put them into quarantine? It's just, it strikes me as a little odd. I guess I haven't been around for that many crewed missions, and I don't think I've been like aware of the behind the scenes of the crewed missions as much as we have been for this one. So maybe this is totally normal, but it just does seem kind of funny.
They have to be very careful. They have to make sure that everything is go for launch, because if it is not, then it is going to be a disaster for the space industry. It'll be a disaster for the United States space enterprise, especially after some of the Boeing capsule issues, the other issues related to this Artemis mission. So this is, it's been plagued already, and it needs to go off without a hitch.
Yeah.
People need to survive, not only survive, but be like, yeah, we went around the moon. Oh my gosh. And it's got to be exciting. So, yeah. And this is also the fact that they chose right now to be launching. This isn't a great time to be launching from the Cape. Winter, it's not hurricane. I mean, it's the end of hurricane season. I don't know. Hurricanes are done by now, but at the same time, it's still storm season. There's a big storm surge. And right now it's been very cold. And that was the issue, is there's always a concern about the components that when they're exposed to freezing temperatures and then sudden increases in temperature because of ignition, compression, friction through the atmosphere, that the heating, the cooling and the heating of the O-rings of various components, that can be very damaging, where normally it's fine. But it's that quick cooling and heating that can be a really big issue. So anyway.
I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. I guess I was surprised they went into quarantine, just also because like there's a lot of heavy lifting that can be done by projecting launches and pushing them out, right? Like that can help with shareholders, that can help with public expectation, that can help with all sorts of things, because it takes a long time to get things perfect. And like you said, everything has to be absolutely perfect. So that can be kind of just almost a stunt to be like, maybe February, maybe March, maybe April. But the fact that they put them into quarantine made it feel like it was really going to happen. Interesting. I don't know. We'll see what happens in March.
We'll see what happens in March. And I just want to say that someone in the chat, 1 by land and 2 by sea. There's a whole bunch of other stuff in there. SLS is not a SpaceX rocket, and it is Lockheed Boeing built NASA design. And that is accurate. And I apologize for my misstatement there. I was getting it confused with some earlier stories about rockets, and I think it's the Falcon 9s that have been grounded by SpaceX recently. Anyway, the SLS is it's a pork barrel. There's all sorts of groups involved in this giant kind of old design rocket. It's big rocket. But we'll see. It's a big rocket, single use. Let's see if we can get to the moon and back. Let's see if we can get people in there. Let's make it go. Fingers crossed. The Orion capsule was developed as part of the Constellation program. And this is a George Bush era attempt to get the human space missions continued. This SLS system is a replacement for the Ares rocket. It was meant to be used with the Orion capsule, and Boeing is the main contractor tasked with building the SLS. However, and to note, over 1,000 separate vendors have been involved in the rocket's fabrication. So, hey, it's a great American program. But there's Artemis II. It's not just going and taking the crewed mission around the moon. It is also going to be doing a bunch of science. So they have a bunch of cameras The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter camera is going to be taking a whole bunch of pictures of the lunar surface. It has a resolution of about 100 meters per pixel, which is amazing. They are also going to be, they're going to be doing studies of the astronauts. They're going to be looking at the lunar surface in multiple colors, true color versus other wavelengths. They have multiple cameras that are going to be imaging the surface of the moon in different wavelengths. They're going to be looking at the moon's far side, not dark side, the far side. And it's just got to wait now. So hopefully they can figure out what was going wrong with the hydrogen system. No more leaking, whatever. Moving on up, we've also got a report that the sun has released a very strong flare. It peaked today at 7:13 a.m. Eastern time, and NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory got a really beautiful picture of this solar flare, a bright flash today that is indicative of the energy that is coming out of this flare. It's just a beautiful image. And I keep looking at it and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. So anyway, the solar flare, it came out of a storm on the surface of the sun. This is magnetic energy that electromagnetic energy that bursts out of the sun and accelerates particles toward the Earth. This is an X4.2 flare. So this is a fairly strong flare that should not affect us, may impact communications when it reaches the Earth. It could lead to some interesting auroral activity as well. But the sun is busy. It's very excited right now. And so there's some beautiful, beautiful activity that we can look at, which is pretty cool. All right. Offshore wind. Blair, while you were sick one evening, I had a great interview with a science writer, journalist who works in climate change and green energy and has been covering offshore wind for a very long time. And we talked about some of the political aspects of what had led to a basic cessation of offshore wind in the United States. Well, that cessation, which was due to an order from the Trump administration today or this week, there was February 2nd, not today. The response, a judge has actually viewed the report and ordered that it is not enough to justify the order to halt construction. Let's see. If the government's concern is the operation of these facilities, allowing the ongoing operation of the 44 turbines while prohibiting the repair of existing turbines and the completion of the 18 additional turbines is irrational. So the judge has raised the possibility that the order to halt construction could ultimately be held to be arbitrary and capricious. Yes. So the courts are basically saying, go ahead with construction, but so hopefully those wind turbines that need to be repaired, those that are in the process of being built, that investment has already gone into their development, hopefully this order will allow for their completion and for them to be heard. And so the great piece of news is that because of this order, a lot of the turbines that were in development, they might actually be finished before an appeal is heard, because the government will probably appeal this judge's order forward. So anyway, offshore wind, it's open again.
There's this whole shell game with new development versus repairing old development that happens in the power industry in general. That's nefarious. So,
It's a
I'm
back
not
and forth
surprised to
game. Yeah.
hear, that kind of is a factor in play. But whatever positive change can happen, I'm here for it. Whatever kind of back channel quick action we can do with the right judge might as well do the playbook that the other side is doing. Just take your opportunities where you have them to make the world a better place.
Yeah, and if we can have wind energy during periods of time that are, very cold, so that some of the combustion sources of energy that they have a hard time working, if the wind energy can work and keep stuff on power in the grid, that's better for it. So we need to have many baskets and many eggs. The
Yes.
idea of putting all of the eggs in the fossil fuel basket, we got to move past
No,
that.
I do think
past
that's
it?
like the silliest part of this is, even if you're like, climate change is against my religion or whatever ridiculous thing, but like, if you go that way with it,
Mhm.
forget it. Throw the climate change part out the window. Don't really, but like, if let's just, for the sake of
Power
argument,
availability
yeah,
and affordability.
You
Yes.
diversify your financial resources, diversify where you get your power from, for obvious reasons. What if the supply chain breaks down for fossil fuels? What if there's an issue with a grid? Like, just like with anything else, you want to have options. You want to kind of spread your options so that, we also know that like fossil fuels are finite. Like, it's just, it's all silly. It's all money. There's money in the background. That's what's happening.
It's not my money.
The offshore drilling wants to continue. The offshore windmills they get in the way. So it's just, there you go.
Oh, you're so right. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I was going to put this story at the very end of the show, but we can make it quick. And at this time of the show is related to energy production and the data centers that are asking for more energy from the grid. And where is that energy going to come from? Well, the Musk humanoid has taken his XAI company and merged it with SpaceX. So now we have the AI company with SpaceX so that they can develop data centers in space, because there's plenty of solar energy in space. And all the heat that the data centers produce is not a problem because space is cold. Apparently, this is one of the talking points that is being used.
But you still have to actively cool.
Space is cold, but it also, because of not as many molecules being more of a vacuum, it is insulating. And there is a whole literature on how we have to manage energy production and heat within the space station and within any crewed vehicle that goes through space, so that people and spacesuits as well, so that humans do not boil or cook in space.
Yeah, one thing there's not a lot of in space, water.
There's there's a lot of water, but it's just not in one place really for you to use.
For use. Yeah. It's
so
I'm not surprised to hear this, because I also heard that Tesla is going to stop making the majority of their cars, and they're putting the majority of their resources and futures into robots. So this tracks for me, based on what I understand from this individual. So interesting business choices all around.
And not to go into the shell game of the finances that have created these business choices, but the science that is being ostensibly used to justify data centers in space, and why this merger. Because we need to have more data. There's so much energy in space. There's space in space. We could do it there. And if we do it there, then, it's cold and you don't have to, it'll be fine. And the answer is No. No.
The answer is you're
hard.
dumb.
It is. But we need to
The answer is you've surrounded yourself with people who don't challenge you. You've surrounded yourself with people who say, yes, what an excellent idea. Like,
So
this is the big danger here, is you have to surround yourself with people who challenge you, who ask questions, who know more than you. This is really important in leadership.
But the problem is that CNN runs an article about this where the journalist, who maybe has no science background, doesn't understand this at all, just honestly published everything that was said about why and how data centers in space is such a great idea. And so what I would hope that this conversation we're having here can also like help like people who are listening right now. If you're listening right now and you find somebody who's like, who in a conversation is like, oh yeah, data centers in space. Space is so great because it's cold. You can please look up how the insulating nature, the heat transfer issues in space are known to be of great difficulty. And it is a huge issue. And there's going to be anything putting a data center in space is going to have to deal with multiple issues related to radiation from the sun, is going to have to deal with insulation issues and heat transfer. And also then the energy transfer from the data center to wherever or however to the satellites or what energy transfer and whatever, however you want it to what. This is billions of dollars, trillions of dollars worth of investment to make this happen. And so we need there's a whole lot of conversation that needs to happen. And I hope that we can all have very great, compassionate conversations with people who are, looking at this without understanding the difficulties. And that's why I bring it up.
Yeah, it's at my core, this makes me feel sick. And I think I figured out why. It's because it is the resurfacing of like the garbage barge mentality. That's really what this is about, right? Is like, instead of reducing the amount of trash that we make, we'll just ship the trash out. Yeah. It'll be somebody else's problem. Instead of reassessing how much energy, how many servers, and how much data we are currently processing, in a lot of cases for nothing, instead of reassessing that and figuring out how to work within the confines that we have, let's just outsource data centers to outer space. So it's not our problem anymore.
How about we actually just slow it down a little bit, not act as if this is something that has to happen within the next year? How about if we just pump the brakes, work on sustainable energy, renewable sources, fixing the grid and making it more resilient, increasing our ability to get power to places that need it, data centers, communities, during the good times and the rough weather times. How about we just work on that and try to build sustainably, as opposed to, we're just going to take it out into space, everyone. So, yeah, there are... Blair, where'd you go?
It sounds like a true megalomaniac. Like, that's my problem. This is just like, just take and take and take.
Blair, you mentioned like and this is something that someone else brought up recently as well, is the super rich individuals have insulated themselves, in a vacuum, have insulated themselves from regular humanity, right? Just everybody. And they've surrounded themselves by yes people. And I think now, though, they're surrounding themselves by AI chatbots that want to satisfy them and like to pet them. So I think that there is a very interesting parallel to the yes person kind of reality, and the fact that we have AIs and mental health issues related to that. But billionaire class is not immune from mental health issues.
No.
Great good news beyond offshore wind getting a go-ahead from a judge. Another judge ruled on Friday that the Trump administration violated the law with its climate working group. So the climate working group that consisted of like 10 people who wrote 150 pages basically to support the removal of EPA regulations using carbon dioxide as a pollutant or as something to be regulated. They were trying to get around that and a judge said, no, you broke all your own laws.
Excellent.
So you can't just go makety-uppeting your like little group of friends to make a new report that nobody else that gets rid of all the other information that's out there. The DOE dissolved the climate working group in 2025. They made up their own group. They came up with their own report. A bunch of IPCC climate scientists came out with a longer report that point by point by point with massive numbers of references reacted to everything in that report. It was amazing. But basically, there's emails that have been released. The climate working group was organized by, this is from John Timmer in Ars Technica, was organized by a political appointee at the DOE who was previously at the Cato Institute, and done with the intention of producing material that would aid the EPA with overturning the greenhouse gas endangerment finding. Anyway, a judge has said, no. So again, the legal system is pushing back against some of these illegal attacks on science. And understanding this, though, there will be an appeal. There will be, because it's the legal process, this is going to be a long, drawn-out process. But what it means is that climate working group and any findings of that working group cannot overtake what had been previously regulated. So they can't undo anything based on an illegal working group, which is, pretty good.
Yeah. I wish we could apply that across the board.
I know. Yeah. Anyway, good. It's good news. There's little by little, and it's, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Whatever. It's going to be this for a while. But if we want to maintain rule of law in our country as the deciding factor for how we go about processes in our government and in our society, then we need to wait, support it, keep it going. But this excitement, these little, one story here, one story there, these wins excite me. I get excited for science. I also get excited by a study out of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. So water vapor, Blair, how big a problem is that for climate science?
Oh, well, it's part of the water cycle. So it's I mean, like, it's part of what controls the climate for sure. So, it impacts everything. It impacts how heat is moved around. It impacts the retention of nutrients. It impacts everything. The water cycle's huge.
It is huge. And the big aspect of the water cycle and water vapor is that you have water vapor coming from the oceans, right? There's a constant process of evaporation, condensation, where water goes from lakes, it goes from oceans. There's the process of water cycling between liquid bodies of water and gaseous form in the atmosphere. And then, you know, how it condenses and then goes rain, 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 rolls down the hills and the mountains into the lakes and the oceans, and then it starts all over again. But humans also create a lot of water vapor through combustion processes. So our vehicles, our industry, like so many of our processes end up burning things. And in the process, water vapor ends up as part of the stuff that we emit into the air. How do we tell the difference between human emitted water vapor and natural water vapor? Isn't it just all H2O gas? Isn't that it?
You tell me, Kiki.
Yeah. So historically, it's kind of that's what it's been. And so just published in Environmental Science and Technology, these researchers looked at different isotopes of water vapor. So an 18 isotope and a 2 so 18 oxygen, 2 hydrogen, DXS. These are ways of representing the water vapor. So normally it's H2O vapor, but the oxygen and the hydrogen can have slightly different forms with different numbers of electrons and excess isotopic compositions. And what they found is that there is an 18 oxygen isotope in fossil fuel combustion-derived water vapor that can be distinguished, that it has like very specific characteristics from that comes from regular water sources. So there are variations in the oxygen isotope across different fossil fuels. It stems from differences in their chemical compositions, the partitioning ratio of the 18 isotope oxygen atoms between CO2 and H2O during combustion with the atmosphere. So there are very specific traits, and what they are saying is that they're able to start to specify where water vapor comes from, and not just fossil fuels in general, but manufacturing, energy production, trucks, that because of the different combustion processes, the different heat, neutrons, whatever, but the different isotopes and the different way they partition, that there are different chemical reasons. And yes, Patrick Pecoraro, you're right. It's protons or neutrons that are
it's so the number is protons plus neutrons.
Yes.
So the most common form of oxygen, because the atomic number of oxygen is 8, is oxygen 16, because you have 8 protons and 8 neutrons.
Yes.
And the atomic weight is 16. But isotopes have different numbers of neutrons, so they're the same number of protons and electrons. The neutrons change their weight, so that's why you can differentiate isotopes, is because the different types of neutrons mean they act like oxygen. They react to other atoms like oxygen does, because the same number of electrons as all other oxygens, but they have extra neutrons, so they're heavier, or they have less neutrons and they're lighter.
So that is like with hydrogen versus deuterium. So water versus deuterium. It's where you have the heavier water that's being used in our nuclear fission. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I first found out about when I was going through my climate change communication training with Noki. We had this guest speaker, and they gave us this whole talk about how there are isotopes of carbon that are found in carbon dioxide. And so one of the common kind of arguments that people will have about, trying to refute climate change is that, well, there's carbon dioxide being released from the burning of fossil fuels, but there's also carbon dioxide being released from breathing out.
Mhm.
I just breathed out carbon dioxide. I'm contributing to climate change. That's like the joke that they always make, right? But in reality, you can actually tell the difference between carbon dioxide from natural respiration and carbon dioxide from the burning of fossil fuels. And it is because of an isotopic difference. And so you can trace that. You can figure out exactly where there's higher concentrations of the fossil fuel derived carbon dioxide, right? So I've known about that. So that is awesome because it's a really easy way to see the direct impact of the Industrial Revolution on. You can see the specific isotope of carbon that's not present in the atmosphere almost at all before the Industrial Revolution, and then it skyrockets, as does everything else, right? Carbon dioxide concentrations, temperatures, all of it. But to see that it is also true for water is really interesting. Especially because, like I was saying, like water is a really important part of the cycling of nutrients, of air, of temperatures, of temperature dynamics. Like there's all these different things going on, not to mention like erosion, like the bringing of nutrients from land to the sea. There's all this kind of stuff that's impacted by water and the water cycle. So it's not as easy for my brain to do the gymnastics that some of that, and this isn't even quite right, but like that some of the water is like bad, right? Which is not bad. It's like water in the water cycle is all important to life. We need water. But to be able to trace it is pretty interesting because you can see which water has been through the fossil fuel pipeline, basically.
So it's not just carbon that has been burned or buried, or like you're talking about being able, we understand that there's C3, C4, these different isotopes based on different photosynthesis pathways. We have 13 and 14 that are different carbon isotopes because of different atmospheric and carbon cycling pathways. But hydrogen has isotopes that work this way. And now we know that oxygen has very specific isotopes that the neutrons that they all line up in a particular way. They group together in a particular way to allow us to measure the difference between fossil fuels producing water vapor from car combustion engines, hotter industrial plants, or like those from energy production. So there's a way to start telling them apart, which I think is going to be, if this is something that is measurable and consistent, this is going to be something extremely useful for the work that we do for tracking it.
Yeah. No, I think that'll be pretty interesting. And it's are the ratios going to change?
Right.
I think it very strange to think about. There's like, I don't know. It's where does the other oxygen go? That's oxygen 16.
Yeah,
like you're not. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's good to be able to make. It's not just water, the isotopes of water. It is with now identifiable from source. Yeah. You wanted to talk about something way more exciting than this, though. Next.
Yeah, roadkill.
Yeah. So dinner.
Yeah, dinner, your next science experiment, who knows? So there was a recent review of about over 300 studies, and it was looking at the viability of roadkill in scientific research. So give me a second before you pish-posh this here, because at first I know it's very easy to be like, roadkill in science? No thanks. That's trash. But
well, it's dead stuff on the road.
It is dead stuff. Yeah. It is on the road. But when you use animals in research, there's a lot of barriers to their use. The big one being ethics. There are ethics boards before you use live animals in research, or before you use animals that you procure euthanize, and then test. There are ethics involved. There are costs involved. There are all sorts of limiting factors if you're bringing an animal into a lab environment, right? And so the idea of being able to use roadkill in scientific research is actually a common one. And this bit of kind of research review wanted to look at the efficacy of using roadkill in studies, how prevalent it is, and if it's something that we should be looking at further. And so, first of all, roadkill is a time savings. The researchers don't have to go on committees. They don't have to spend time filling out ethics applications. It's really funny to me. But it's true. It's like takes time.
You don't need to worry about like the ethics protocols of working with a live animal.
Yeah. So
right? Yeah.
as long as you're taking a sample from the body of an animal and it's okay that it's already dead, then you can potentially use roadkill. The researchers actually gathered a list of potential uses for roadkill in research. They did systematic literature reviews from studies between 1900 and 2025. They found 312 studies that fit their criteria of using roadkill beyond just seeing roadkill. Is there roadkill? Why did this get hit by a car? So basically like taking the actual roadkill part of the studies, those studies were not included in this. They were only looking at studies where they sampled from roadkill for a different thing. And it looks like about 650 species were studied. Mammals the most, of course, followed by reptiles, birds, amphibians, and then invertebrates. Very difficult to get invertebrate roadkill. Not impossible, but definitely difficult. And so they sorted, they categorized. They found two main categories for use of roadkills: broad use and specific use. Broad use are things like general anatomy, the microbiome, ecology, range, parasites, and then generally in use for teaching. And then the specific use were looking at something very specific in the body that they were testing. So I'm not finding it now. I completely lost it. But basically, so it's specific. It's like, I want to test all the livers from rabbits in this area, right? So it's a very localized study on a specific element of that animal. So overall, they found that they were able to use roadkill effectively in a lot of these studies. They were able to test via molecular analysis. They were able to look at bone fractures and see how bones fracture in specific animals. They were able to assess veterinary treatments based on looking at things like fractures. And so they found a lot of opportunity in using roadkill, but there are certain caveats. So obviously, depending on when you get to the roadkill, there's decomposition, right? They were damaged in some way when they were struck. So there's an opportunity for the sample to not be good for those reasons. So you have to kind of find them quickly. You have to detect roadkill and harvest it before too much damage occurs.
Or
some areas,
the damage is done if it's roadkill, but if it's
right,
deteriorating, so you're going to have
right,
cellular decomposition over time that's going to mix and mush everything together.
Yeah, if you got to peel it off the asphalt, it's too late.
If you need a spatula.
In certain areas, there is also still a permit required to take wildlife samples, quote unquote, even if it's something dead. So those people who are harvesting roadkill to eat, depending on where it is, it could be illegal. I'm not saying don't do it, but it's interesting factoid for you. There are certain areas where harvesting wildlife, taking samples, or what do they call it? Take is is illegal without a permit. Sampling,
But-
there's lots of different ones for that. So that is something that you have to do. You don't just sit on an ethics board, but
Yeah.
you do have to, fill those things out. But the other thing that I thought was really interesting is there's a potential for sampling bias. And that's, I think, especially true in animals that can get habituated to a road, right? Because who is getting hit by a car? Is it exclusively animals that are not as smart? Is it exclusively animals that are sick? Is it exclusively animals that are young? And maybe not exclusively, but maybe predominantly any of those things. So there could be potential confounding variables if you are only sampling roadkill. You also might accidentally be sampling a subset of a species because they live in a specific area near the roads. You might be accidentally sampling from animals that have poor vision or poor hearing, or have an illness that disrupts them and makes them walk around at night on a road. It could be anything, right? So there could be any weird kind of push that creates the opportunity of roadkill. And so, it's really important if you use roadkill as the foundation of a study to make sure that that study is replicable. I don't think you're going to get away from live animals or true random sample via roadkill, but you might be able to make preliminary results, do some exploration of a hypothesis, get some good ideas, and move forward. It also still is a really good source of training materials for budding scientists, for veterinarians, for other individuals who are kind of have to learn animal anatomy. The roadkill is a really good source for that as well. So anyway,
I think it's interesting. I've always been very interested in the logic behind the illegality of harvesting roadkill. I mean, I guess the only thing that I can imagine is that it is to protect people from becoming ill, from
that's one.
handling sick animals or eating tainted meat or anything. So what are other reasons?
So the other one is the same reason you're not supposed to have like feathers from endangered birds, right? It's because how can you prove that that is how you source that animal? And if you cannot prove it, then you are building.
It's the Instagram or the TikTok reel that you filmed while you did it.
That you fed into ChatGPT. But that is also part of it too, is it decreasing availability. If it's available, if you can get snake skin from an endangered snake via roadkill, then it's impossible to know which roadkill or which snake skin is roadkill and which is not. It creates this idea that it's easily accessible, and then people start buying it off of poachers, right? So it also is part of it, is kind of creating a culture of
anti-poaching. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Absolutely.
That makes more sense. But it is interesting to see that states like California, it's a Western state, but it's also a state with like big ports, right? So you would think that California would not allow roadkill take, but California does. Oregon and Washington, I'm looking that you need to basically within 24 hours, you need to just apply and say, I took a deer off the road that was dead. And if you apply, it's free. Basically, then it's cool. But there are Montana, Wisconsin, Michigan. They've relaxed their roadkill laws. Oregon actually has some very has some interesting roadkill stuff going on, and apparently now about half of the United States allow roadkill without a permit. So.
Well, and I would say all of that also depends on if you end up in a national park or particular jurisdictions of county parks.
For sure.
Then there are their own restrictions within those spaces as well.
Yeah, but I think I think for scientists, the best point is if you're doing Most research is, okay, if it's roadkill, I'm going to find it along an interstate. I might find it, wherever it pops up, right? So I need to be ready with a federal permit. So you're
Yeah.
going to go through federal permitting processes to make sure that you can do it, and have a scientific take permit.
Of course, yeah.
But then there's like the state permits and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's very interesting. And the multiple reasons that you've come up with beyond just, studying the reasons why animals were hit by cars. Like people in Texas don't like armadillos for some reason. I don't get it.
Well, armadillos, there's a couple problems with armadillos, but the big one is that 9-banded armadillos, when they get scared, will jump. But they jump like straight up in the air, grill height. Basically.
That sounds, oh, poor things.
Yeah, so that's part of the reason. Yeah.
Oh, that's
and
really
of course,
sad.
opossums are extremely common roadkill because they play dead. So they see a big scary car coming and they play dead, which is exactly what you shouldn't do. So.
Run away. Run away.
Yeah.
Back to the side of the road, little animal. And this just as the Trump administration has opened up a possible build order for a 4-lane highway through a conservation area with a endangered, I think it's endangered tortoise in an area that previously there had been a plan to just fix an older road and make an older road that goes around the conservation area. Updated.
Is this in the Mojave Desert? That sounds.
I don't remember where it is. It's a new piece. It's a new piece of news out this week, but it's BLM land that has been opened up by it. In 2024, there was a BLM order that said no, don't build on it, and now it has been redacted and it's no longer legal. So we might get a 4-lane freeway through a endangered species conservation area. Great, because we need to get places faster. I mean, come on. Totally. All right. Yikes. Lanternflies.
Yeah.
How much do you know about lanternflies?
Those aren't fireflies.
No, the spotted lanternfly.
Okay,
do you know when you drive into California and they make you stop at the border for Nevada and Oregon, and they check your fruits because they're looking for spotted lanternfly.
Whoa!
So the spotted
weird looking.
They're pretty. They're really pretty, actually. The spotted lanternfly is a beautiful insect. It is native to China. They are like colorful and so cool looking.
But they don't glow at all.
No, they're not lanterns. They're not. They're not a glow in the no.
Man, I feel cheated.
But what they do is that they eat holes in things and they kill trees and they impact the fruit harvests so that there was just news recently that the spotted lanternfly is making its way up into Oregon, and that they're probably up in the area where I live now. And there are certain trees that they like, and it's like, if your trees are dying, it might be because of spotted lanternfly. But California has had a spotted lanternfly vendetta for years, and they have barely kept this insect in check. And now it has moved other areas. It's invasive, and as pretty as it is, and it lives very well without causing a bunch of damage in China, because that's its native habitat. But here in the United States, it causes all sorts of damage. It's a real problem. So we worry about the spotted lanternfly and its appearance in places because of the trees it kills, the impact on agriculture, so many different things. It's a beautiful insect, but so damaging to our ecosystems. Anyway, that said, there is a new story out. The spotted lanternfly might be using. Have you heard of the tree of heaven, Blair?
No.
Okay.
Man, you are stumping me left and right today.
Yeah. So the tree of heaven is another invasive species.
Whoa.
And it is this tree, and it once it gets in, if you try to cut it down, it will it grows more. It sends out roots and shoots, so it'll have more shoots up in different places, and it makes it harder to get rid of. And then it grows, and it's actually really pretty. A lot of people have tree of heaven as trees or little plants in their houses, and tree of heaven actually is, if you go on any like subreddit, what plant is this, or subreddit landscaping or whatever, people have put pictures of tree of heaven, and it's just everyone going, kill that with fire, get rid of it. But honestly, one of the only ways you can get rid of it is to cut it down to its base and then to pour basically Roundup on top of it to kill it. You have to kill it dead, or
burn
else
it.
because it grows kind of like a eucalyptus or willow, but like it'll grow and then just drop its limbs. It can be and it sends out these massive root structures, and oh, they're terrible. Tree of heaven, very pretty. Terrible plants, awful invasive species. The lanternfly feeds on it, apparently, and they like each other. And the lanternfly tastes yucky after it has eaten tree of heaven. And the birds that might predate the lanternfly and keep its numbers in check don't eat it because it tastes bad.
How did this happen? Is the tree of heaven from the same place as the lanternfly?
Yeah, so it's the tree of heaven is also an Asian invasive species that was brought over as just a ornamental plant, I think, but it's just taken off all over the place. But they had two groups of lanternflies in this study that was published in the Journal of Chemical Ecology, looking at two groups of lanternflies. One group got to eat tree of heaven, the other did not. And they then took these insects and used them to make suet cakes. So they killed the lanternflies and put them in suet, and then put the suet in bird feeders and looked to see which suet the birds preferred. Woodpeckers, black-capped chickadees, white-breasted nuthatches, and Carolina wrens, all these birds are West Coast native, and they did not want to eat the lanternflies that had been exposed to tree of heaven.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do we make them delicious again? What do we do?
We get rid of the tree of heaven.
Gosh.
So this, I think, is one of the one of the hard things is that we've allowed invasive species to come into our ecosystems in such a massive, just a massive way throughout our ecosystems. And by doing that, we have enabled one species, which has very negative impacts on so many plants, to be able to succeed where it really shouldn't. And so if we just got rid of the tree of heaven, more birds would eat the lanternflies. That'd be great. But there is also another study that came out additionally from the Proceedings of the Royal Society B Biological Sciences, suggesting that lanternflies are adapting to city life, heat, pollution, pesticides. They've been looking at the genetics of the lanternflies and seeing that the reason these lanternflies are so invasive and so good at being here is that they are adaptable. So they are shifting their genome to be able to survive successfully with our modern urban environments. Researchers at NYU and Shanghai used whole genome sequencing to analyze the DNA of spotted lanternflies in China and in the US, New York City, Connecticut, and New Jersey. And they determined that in the US, lanternflies were genetically similar across locations, spanning about 200 kilometers. This is maybe reflective of the recent arrival of the species, population bottlenecks, and connectivity between the populations as compared to the Chinese lanternflies, which had more diversity across the different populations. Urban and forested areas of Shanghai had clear genetic differences. And so they were very isolated. They were kind of separate populations, 30 or 40 kilometers apart. They don't fly very far. They just are localized. But in the United States, in cities that there are, and in China also, the urban environment, they had genes associated with stress response and related to heat. So they could live in cities and detoxify and deal with pesticides and pollution. So, lanternflies, they're getting good at living here, and we need to get rid of the tree of heaven. That's the bottom line. Yeah. That's my thing. I love invasive species.
No, you don't. They're not great.
That was a bit of sarcasm on my part. That there's a point, though, where an invasive species becomes just a species.
Yes.
Right? And so when is that? When is that?
Yes, there's a time that a weed is just a plant also. It's,
A weed is just a weed.
Nothing means anything. I get it.
Seriously. I am talking about lanternflies because this is a huge deal. This is the most important thing we could be talking about right now. Oh, it's like, I'm very they're such gorgeous insects. How can we live with them? Because we probably will not be able to get rid of them.
I feel like we got to make them delicious. That's really the way.
Burn the tree of heaven.
Or, do some gene editing to make it delicious. I don't know.
Okay. All right. We have more stories. You want to do Blair's Animal Corner?
Let's do it.
Okay. This is This Week in Science. You want to hear about animals? Blair is going to tell you about them. But in the meantime, I would like to ask you to continue to support This Week in Science by listening, by watching, and by sharing all these episodes with your friends. If more people subscribe and more people are talking about what we talk about on TWIS, then what we talk about, how exciting that more people would be talking about Tree of Heaven and lanternflies and all the cool things we talk about. It would be so great. Additionally, we are supported by our listeners. So if you are able to go over to twis.org and click on that Patreon link, we have a PayPal link, or our Zazzle Store. We appreciate any way that you're able to support us. We really can't do it without you. Thank you for your support. And your support means that Blair can do the Animal Corner.
Yes.
Blair's Animal Corner.
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. If you want to hear about animals, she's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. There's Animal Corner.
What you got, Blair?
I have caterpillar microphones. Are you talking into a caterpillar microphone, Kiki?
I am talking into an Electro Voice RE20. No caterpillars here.
Is it covered in hair?
Mine?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Intentionally?
No.
Okay. Well, in the future, we may all have hairy microphones inspired by caterpillars. The tobacco hornworm caterpillar is a common garden pest But really, what is a pest, as we were saying? But a new study out of Binghamton University says that they can detect airborne sound via microscopic hairs on its body. And so I have to tell you about how this all happened, because really it's the story. It's the story behind this research that is the reason I brought this to the show. So,
Sweet. The story.
Associate
the science.
Professor of Biological Sciences Carol Mills realized that whenever she walked into a lab where her colleague was studying caterpillars, the caterpillars would jump when she talked. Her colleague said the caterpillars could hear her and that they didn't like the sound of her voice. Now, based on that information alone, I feel bad for Carol. What a bummer. The caterpillars don't like her voice. Well, she continues to say, every time I went boo at them, they would jump. All right, Carol. All right. So
I'm having this feeling that instead of talking about Karen, we're going to be talking about Carol for a long time on the show.
Carol, if you're listening, come on the show. I want to talk to you about this, because were the caterpillars really upset by the sound of your voice, or were you terrorizing the caterpillars?
Oh boy.
Because you were saying boo at them and they would jump. Of course they jumped. You're giant. And you're not their normal researcher.
But what insect pays attention to a human saying boo? Like, you've got your own little, like, not an aquarium.
Well, okay, so
vivarium, right?
This is a good question, because there are some animals that don't care. Like, if you yell boo at an ant farm, they probably don't care. But if you yelled boo at a tarantula, they probably would. Now, is that because of their relative size to us? Is that because of their ecology and how they survive? Is that because they're social, they're not social? Is it because they have physical structures that allow for them to hear differently than others? So that maybe it's all, maybe it's none, right? But so ultimately, Dr. Carol Miles wanted to know why they would jump at a sound like that. And so she decided, let's find out if they can hear and what they can hear and why. And so their previous studies looking at how animals respond to sound, which included things like flies and spiders, these studies actually led to specific microphone patents. So this is a pathway that has been followed before. But the caterpillars in particular, they were curious on if they were responding to airwaves, sound waves in the air, or vibrations, because those are very different things, and their bodies could have very different structures. So like any animal on the ground or on a plant that's on the ground could potentially feel a vibration, but not every animal can hear a sound that is airborne. So what they went to the Binghamton Anechoic Chamber, which I went down a crazy rabbit hole not long ago watching a bunch of different videos about anechoic chambers. And they're chambers that are basically like among the quietest rooms in the world. They're supposed to be so quiet that you can't be there in very long or you'll basically go insane. There's people who say that if you're there long enough, you can start to hear your blood pulsing in your veins. There are people that say that you lose sense of up and down because there's no feedback sounds from around. There's no like sonar responses to your movement around a space. So it's a really crazy space.
Say a lot of things, Blair.
People do say a lot of things, and I encourage all of you to look into it later because it's very interesting, and I would like to experience it someday. I think it'd be very cool. But anyway, they brought some caterpillars into this very quiet room, and so they were able to control the sound and figure out, is it vibration? Is it sound? What is it? It was the sound. So they played a low frequency and a high frequency sound. They measured how the caterpillars responded to them, sent to them as vibrations and sent to them as airborne sounds. And they found that indeed the caterpillars were 10 to 100 times more responsive to airborne sound than to vibrations. So they are responding to sound. Then they wanted to see what was helping them understand the sound. And so what they did is that they did have these hairs all over their bodies. And yes, researchers removed the hairs and then tested if they responded to sound. And overall, they were less capable of detecting sound without the hairs on their body. So these hairs all over the caterpillars respond to airborne sound. And that's because airborne sound waves cause motion in air. So the hairs respond to the movement of the air, which is the sound. So
the same way that a breeze will move your hairs on your forearm.
Right.
But you don't hear that, you feel it.
Right. And so researchers hypothesize that the caterpillars may have evolved these frequencies because they just so happen to be very similar to the frequencies that are emitted by the wasps that like to eat these caterpillars when they are beating their wings.
Interesting.
So this could be a pretty effective sound to train yourself on. And so the idea is, based on all this information, the acoustic nature of the tiny hairs, the testing that they did on how the sound works, they could potentially make a new microphone.
Okay, so using the movement of little tiny hairs to transduce vibrations in the air to make a microphone.
Yeah, which there are already, what are they called? Kittens or cats that you put on microphones that are kind of the hairy sock, but that is to reduce
but that's to reduce
sound,
it,
right? So I think it's interesting that hairy microphones exist, but for a completely opposite purpose. And the idea of this hairy microphone having kind of guard hairs almost that help detect sound is wild. And could you have kind of a hairy cat that does both?
That would be very interesting. I don't think it could be a big fuzzy hairy cat. I think it would have to be...
Unless there were specific guard hairs on it, like long whiskers.
You just said guard hairs. Guard hairs, yes.
Yeah.
Lots of animals have extra hairs. So our cats, other hairy animals, they've got the nice soft fur, the insulating fur, but then there are stiffer hairs that are for sensing.
Yep.
And usually it's not, we don't know. Are those for sound also? We talk about how well cats and other animals can hear.
It could be. Yeah,
but it could be. Could their bodies be sensing sound and not just touch?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's worth looking into for sure. Yeah.
And how many other insects have hairs? You don't know. You haven't kept track.
I mean, what about the woolly bear? What about that caterpillar? It's covered in hair.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Love the woolly
also
bear.
Like antennas, so it's a rich vein, Anyway, moving on. Do you want to know about shrew feet?
I do.
Okay, specifically elephant shrew. Oh yeah, there's a woolly bear. Elephant shrews. So I was reading this story, okay, and we're gonna get into the feet of it all in a minute. But I was reading this story, and in the press release and in the paper, they refer to these little shrews as sengis. And I was like, man, that's so funny. They look like elephant shrews. I wonder if they're related. And I'm like, and I do my little type in. They're elephant shrews. It's just another name for elephant shrews. So anyway.
Is it scientific or is it a local term?
It is not part of their genus and species. Okay. So unclear. But anyway, elephant shrew feet. If you do not know what an elephant shrew looks like,
we're gonna look.
Google it immediately, please.
They're so cute.
Okay,
we're gonna look at them.
Wild.
They're adorbs.
Pop them up. Perfect.
long, skinny noses, big ears, big eyes. Their face is like it's kind of like, what are the plague masks? The plague doctor
Yes,
masks.
absolutely. The
Except
other thing
fuzzy.
about their face that I always think is really funny is that their face with their mouth closed is pretty cute. It looks like a plague mask. It looks like a funnel. It looks like an elephant shrew is
Funnel,
what it
yeah.
looks like, right?
Yeah.
But if you see them eating or with their mouth open,
They have
they
a big
look
mouth.
they look kind of ridiculous. Like the nose sticks out in such a way when their mouth is open that you're like, that's not like somebody drew an animal wrong. Anyway, I digress. Elephant shrews are really interesting.
Cute.
There's lots of cool things about them, but I'm here to talk about their feet today. And that is because they are being monitored for the distribution of different species and subspecies of elephant shrews. And they have a large impact on their environment because they have big numbers, they eat a lot of plants, they are food to other animals. And so it kind of impacts the general biodiversity of a region, knowing what your elephant shrew distribution looks like. And so there's a desire to find good ways to figure out not just how many elephant shrews there are, but which subspecies are living in specific areas, what their ranges are, right? And so, of course, you have camera traps, but when you're comparing elephant shrews in the dark, pretty hard to tell them apart. There's, of course, catching and doing DNA analysis. Expensive, slow, invasive. So up to this point, that's really been the only way to tell these two species apart. And so a recent study wanted to look at identifying them by their feet.
Well,
because they appear to have
like fingerprints.
Yeah, kind of, but not person specific or shrew specific, but species specific.
Okay.
Because the two different species of elephant shrews or sengis, their feet are different enough that people who are familiar with elephant shrews can ID them based on their feet. So they wanted to see how viable it was to figure out distribution maps based on footprints. So they collected sengis from 2 South African sites. They brought them into a lab. They trapped them with some of their, oats and peanut butter and Marmite, which I think is funny.
Which of course they would do. Yeah.
Of course. And then they released them into a box for collecting footprints. The idea with this being that they would have, paper and charcoal dust, and they'd walk through it. They'd be able to get all these really good measurements of their feet, and then they'd be released. And from that, they could build kind of a model for analysis. And so they were able to identify shape and size features to distinguish the two species. Then they took pictures of footprints of elephant shrews where they knew which one it was and ran statistical analysis to see how accurate they could guess based on this model, right? So like, how effective is this model? And overall, the model was 94 to 96% accurate in picking the species based on the foot or footprint specifically. So the footprint identification technology worked extremely well. So now they think that they can use this on pictures of elephant shrew tracks in the sand in the wild. Like, you can just take pictures of the ground, and this model will be able to tell you which shrew lives there. And not which individual, like Bob, but like which species. Is it the eastern or the western, right? And so that's
really interesting, though, where you especially have very distinct populations, but then at the borders where like populations overlap, right? That's
Yes.
really interesting.
Yeah, and in particular, they feel like there's a much wider distribution and more overlap than they guessed originally. But the point of this study was to focus on the viability of the technology, not on the actual distribution of shrews yet. So it seems like it is a viable technology. It seems like it's something that you could train on a lot of different small mammals. The question is, I think, with a lot more research, a lot more potential application, you can figure out how distinct, like what is the measure? How distinct of footprints do they have to have a 94 to 96% accuracy? So I think that's like the additional layer of statistical analysis, is to be able to test how different closely related species footprints are, and from that extrapolate whether you could use this technology or not.
Yeah.
Because it's not always going to work.
Well, I mean, it's those slight variations as opposed to the super distinctive variations, right? But that's also one of the things that we have seen. We talk a lot about, okay, what are the jobs that that quote unquote AI models are good at? They are getting better at recognizing cancers. They are getting better at diagnosing, at identifying species based on based on the sonographs of their songs. They're getting better at identifying these kind of delineations. Like, these are the things that, AI tools are really good at. And so a model like this, it seems like you could have some closer species traits, but still be able to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, like, ultimately, this is why your AI predictor or your AI summary or whatever it is always wrong, and why, the shuffle algorithms are all just giving you the same song over and over again, because they're good at pattern recognition.
You like
That's
songs
exactly
like
it.
this.
I only like songs like that because you keep playing them for me, right?
And because
Similarly,
I'm working and it was in the background and I wasn't paying attention, that doesn't mean I liked it.
yeah. And you keep feeding me the same misinformation because people keep visiting it because you keep feeding me it.
But if you're creating a
yes.
system with a very specific database,
Closed system.
Very specific characteristics, and it's, images also, it's what are the we're constantly training AIs for,
Yeah, and I think,
is this a traffic light? Is that,
right. And I think that scope is often part of the problem. Is it an Eastern shrew or is it a Bushveld shrew? Is very different from what kind of animal is this?
Yep.
So I think that's the other piece of it, is if you make these models do too much, or you give them the field of view that's too wide, they get lost. But if you give them a very specific, here are the possible answers, here are the defining characteristics, then we see in these studies about conservation and camera traps and whale songs and all these things over and over, that machine learning is actually very good at that. It's very good at pattern recognition with guardrails. You have to have bumpers on the bowling lane. Like, that is the way to make this work. And so this is a great example of that. And I love the idea that visual accounts aren't good enough. Poop isn't good enough. The food that they're eating isn't good enough. Nothing else is working. The only thing that's working is DNA. Oh, and their footprint.
And yes.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I mean, so often, and also with stuff that we look at for identifying species, very often it's like we're looking at evolution and looking at fossils, and it's like, oh, morphology. It's such this, it's like, oh, bumps on the skull, phenotyping, and but there are differences, and I think something like footprints. This is great, and they're so cute. I want little pictures of elephant shrew footprints framed on my wall.
Mhm.
That'd be
Mhm.
great. Maybe an idea for this year's calendar.
Footprints.
Footprints.
I like that.
Animal footprints.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be different?
that's great.
I
Love
wonder
that.
if you could go to the zoo and get animals to step on, get footprints and make that.
You can. Those usually sell at auction for a lot of money.
I know. You used to work at the zoo. Maybe you have an in.
Yeah, I didn't get any footprints, though, I will tell you that. I got some chicken footprints. That's all I got.
Well, we can do that.
Nothing too exotic.
Maybe a shrew. Maybe a shrew footprint.
Maybe. Yeah.
There was another Aaaand study this week.
Oh, I did see that. Yes, I'll give you the short one, and you can chime in with anything.
We have to throw it in here.
Yes, artificial light at night, Aaaand, is impacting sharks and their ability to sleep. It turns out that it does impact their melatonin levels at night, but more for some species of sharks than others. Nurse sharks exposed to high levels of artificial light at night, Aaaand, had significantly lower melatonin concentrations than nurse sharks in darker environments, but the melatonin levels in black-tip reef sharks did not differ between brightly lit and darker areas. They are both shallow water species. They are both clear water species. They're both tropical species, but the black-tip reef sharks tend to be a little bit more social, a little bit more likely to be in very crowded areas in water. They're also often commonly seen in snorkel and scuba diving scenarios, and nurse sharks are famously hard to spot. So it is possible that there are some connections there between kind of how easily spooked they are, between their desire for solitude. That could have something to do with it. But they don't have eyelids. So obviously, light is going to impact sharks.
Yep, always.
But yeah, and if I shined a light in your eyes and pried your eyelids open all night, you might get some sleep with your eyes open, but you'd probably be kind of stressed about it and not sleep very well. So I can't say I'm surprised.
Aw.
The other thing they did mention in here, I think that was also important, is that they extrapolate that this could have something to say about humans and LED lights, screens, urban lights, and blue lights at night. Sure, absolutely, that could impact our melatonin. But the thing that I thought about was, what are we doing at aquariums?
Right. Are the lights getting turned off outside? Do they have birds in aviaries? Birds are really impacted by light, and so you need to have a curtain. You should have lights out for the birds. Same for fish, right? Shouldn't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so aquariums will turn the lights off for, power conservation, but I don't know how much they're worried about the melatonin levels of the fish. So I think that that's, part of a larger conversation is like, do you need to mimic the amount of light and dark that it is in the tropics right now, this time of year? Do you need to make sure that there aren't any kind of nightlight style lights or security style lights on that are shining directly into exhibits, or that they're the right kind of UV light if they are UV, or these are all things that immediately I thought of with this. Is of course this impacts ecological conversations related to wild populations, but I would be very interested in extrapolating this research into aquariums, into captive scenarios, because I do think that's an important piece of animal care.
So I honestly, I'm just thinking about light, artificial light at night for ocean dwelling, water dwelling creatures. And to me, I just thinking that it's not going to make as big of a difference in animal life as those animals that live in the urban environments or fly over them during migration or that are actually moving through that light path. Because,
Mhm.
I mean, really, you're only going to be dealing with those sharks or other potentially fish, right? That come close to shore in areas where light is like projecting out
Mhm.
at the water. Because, I mean, and how much light actually comes out from
Right.
our coastline into the water?
Yeah, and I think it depends on the coastline. It depends
Yeah.
on the coast. It depends on if there's a drop off or not.
Mhm.
And animals like these sharks that they mentioned in this study are shallow water
Right, so they're
sharks.
gonna come up
Um,
within the
and the first thing I thought of was Santa Monica Pier. Imagine
Mm.
if you were a fish trying to get some sleep under Santa Monica Pier. That's bright, right? So, but it's
You're gonna be like a person who doesn't wanna sleep where it's bright. You're gonna go sleep somewhere else, hopefully, or get an eye
right.
mask.
Right, absolutely.
A little conch
But what will
shell.
stress you out in the meantime? Or is
Yeah.
that your nursing grounds? Or, is there food there? Because at the pier, people throw food, and so you are
Mhm.
doing cost benefit analysis ultimately to figure out, is it better to be where the food is, or is it better to be away from the water? And if you choose where the food is, then your melatonin still drops and you still don't get enough sleep, and then you can't heal when you get injured, and then you don't live as long. So
You're just saying
there's
all
a
the nice
cascade,
things.
right? I'm just saying sleep is important. She says at 10 PM on a Wednesday night.
I know,
Um,
you've been
s
looking at the clock, I saw you.
I'm tired,
I know. I'm so
no,
happy
no,
for
but
you.
I'm just saying, sleep is important. It's part of our healing system. That is true for sharks just like it is for humans. And
Mhm.
so if your melatonin is dropped and you can't get to sleep or you can't stay asleep, then even if you're a shark, that's going to impact your eventual livelihood, your lifespan, all these things.
And sharks can't go to the local, like, supplement store and
Right.
pick up a bottle of melatonin
Yeah.
to help try and put that at a different time to change your circadian rhythms. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we'll go through this very last bit of the show very quickly, hopefully. Quick story just published out of McGill University in Nature. Researchers looking at the hippocampus, which is an area of the brain that I studied, which I think is so exciting because it's like really important for memory formation. It's like the librarian of the brain. It's like the Dewey Decimal System organizer of the brain. It's like information. Let's connect it to things. And I'm going to remember the card system. Da, da, da. It's also important for spatial learning. It's also so navigation. The hippocampus is really important for these things. New thing that also gives a bit of an insight into Alzheimer's is that the hippocampus helps us predict. And so, because of its role in memory and how it is taking in information all the time, and also so part of consolidating memories in the brain, different places, it's also part of the accessing memories. And so, as you're making decisions about things, as you're going through the world, it is mapping, it's changing its neural activity from the moment of reward to the moments leading up to it. And so it's constantly updating its internal model of the world and predicting, helping to predict what the world is going to be doing. They use calcium imaging to track cells in the hippocampus over weeks during learning. And this is the kind of stuff that you can't get with just electrodes in the brain. And this also goes beyond just primitive, aplysia, poke and withdraw the siphon kind of learning, very simple learning models. This is showing that the hippocampus is very complex and important for anticipation and prediction, which our brain does everything in our perception is based on prediction. And so what the researchers are saying, because the hippocampus is building a map of physical space helping to put our past experiences into context within that physical space. It is also helping us to our brain to predict what's going to come next, so that our cognitive structure and function allows us to function successfully and to know so that things are not as surprising. And not every day is as if we have amnesia of life, right? So we learn from the past. We're able to know that our kitchen is our kitchen, our
Mhm.
cereal is where our cereal is, our keys go where our keys go. But what they're suggesting is that Alzheimer's patients who struggle from decision making and learning, this could be from a breakdown in the hippocampus and the ability of the hippocampus to continue to provide predictive coding.
Hmm.
And so perhaps there is a space within Alzheimer's research where focusing on the hippocampus would be valuable for treatment to enable, making sure those cells don't deteriorate and that the neurons are working so that decision making, prediction, and memory are
Mhm.
still working the way they should.
So I immediately looked because I was like, don't most, if not all, vertebrates have a hippocampus, which they do. So
Yeah.
this is something that
If
I
you
don't know.
have
I'm not a brain guy, but
most brainy, honestly, brainy animals, from reptiles, reptilian brain, bird brain, all mammals, we've got everyone has a hippocampus. Yep.
And I know that in other studies they've been able to make mice with Alzheimer's
Mhm.
like symptoms, right?
Yeah.
So this would be an interesting opportunity to kind of combine all that different research into looking
Yeah.
specifically into the hippocampus and its role in Alzheimer's. Because I think that it's interesting. God, Alzheimer's is
Right.
it's sticky, right? Like, I feel like every time we have a story that's like, "Oh, maybe this is what Alzheimer's is about." It's all about the tau, and then maybe it has to do with this mineral, and then maybe it has to do with, this behavior that
The beta
you're not
amyloid
keeping up,
plaques
and maybe it has to do with the plaques, and now maybe it's your hippocampus. We don't know. We still don't know what Alzheimer's is. So,
it's
like,
systemic. Yeah. But
part of it is because we catch it so late, right? I know we had a study about this recently where somebody was looking into trying to find earlier artifacts. Oh, it was the Terry Pratchett. So
Yeah.
trying to find earlier artifacts of Alzheimer's so that you can try to find a cause. Like, we're really good at seeing effects. We're really good at identifying symptoms and seeing things that are visible in someone with Alzheimer's, but it's really hard to see kind of the markers that will lead to Alzheimer's in the future, right?
Yep.
And so this is a really interesting development for more Alzheimer's research.
Right, because
Yeah.
how can we take all the stuff that we're understanding about tau and the amyloid, and now hippocampus specifically, and how can we start putting these things together? How can we start looking at it predictively, therapeutically, and live the healthiest that we can for as long as we can,
And have better treatments and all that good stuff. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Exactly.
As with all things, as with climate change, as with health concerns, it's about prevention and mitigation. It's both.
It is. And you said sleep. Sleep is very important, but also what you eat, your exercise. We see more and more just adding little bits of exercise to your day, little bits of weightlifting, little bits of things that can help to extend your life, but not just your lifespan, your healthy lifespan, how your brain works. The food you eat, there was a study that just came out this week that I saw a headline on that people who eat ultra processed foods are more likely to get dementia than those individuals who do not eat ultra processed foods. But this has, all sorts of caveats, which is like, what economic level are they at?
Yeah,
Or,
that's the
there's
first thing I was gonna say,
so much
yeah.
stratification there in society and confounding factors. But,
Yeah.
we get into, you don't need to be the super billionaire tech bro who is, mainlining your child's blood serum and, supplements all the time. But there are very well understood ways to try and live a better life. But sometimes it's hard to do that because we're upset or we're stressed out. And we also have to allow ourselves to reduce our stress by not
Mhm.
focusing on, I couldn't eat well today. Don't let that stress you out because
Stress is also a factor. It's all
stress
gonna
is
kill you. I'm kidding.
It is. You know what kills people?
Life?
Yes. That's the answer.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. Final story is from a review that was in Frontiers in Science this week. A review published. Researchers are warning that progress in AI and neurotechnology is moving too fast for society, and our current scientific understanding of intelligence and consciousness. That because we do not understand consciousness well enough at a scientific level, this could lead to serious ethical issues if we allow the science to outpace our understanding. But don't we need the science so that we can understand better? But I understand where this is coming from. I actually, I think it is fair that there is a call by these researchers for concern, but where I run into my question is, why do we have to put urgency on everything? Why can't we just pump the brakes a little bit? But what this is calling for is urgency in the scientific community to define consciousness, to understand consciousness, that we need to know what it is really, really well, because it's going to cause a lot of problems once we have, AGI and, little
Mm.
animals that we're synthetically creating. And what about brain organoids and, all this stuff.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I rather than urgency on categorization, I want two things. I want one, slow down with the AI. Can you just slow down?
Just
slow down.
stop it. Stop it.
Just stop it.
Stop it. I'm tired of
Two,
it.
much more than categorization of consciousness, I want defined responsibility. That is what I want.
Oof. There we go.
Because the AIs, first of all, well, also third. All right, before I get into that one, the third piece is stop calling it AI. Because by calling it AI, we are giving it this personality, personhood, that if you call it an algorithm, it's not there, right? And so I think that there is this part where there's the humanization, the anthropomorphization of this of a computer program that is currently happening, that is like more than what is actually happening. Like in these programs aren't thinking for themselves.
No,
at this
they are
juncture.
probabilistic database algorithms.
Yes. And so to provide it this personhood by calling it an artificial intelligence is creating this whole conversation that we don't have to have. Now, the responsibility piece is way more important than anything else, because if you have an AI that is not administered properly, does not have safeguards, and convinces someone to hurt themselves or someone else,
which is happening
no
now,
one is getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Because it's not a real person who's doing it.
And the companies say, oops, we'll go back and put something in the program.
But if I'm driving my car and I hit somebody, I don't go, oops, it didn't tell me to brake right, or it didn't brake fast enough. Oh, the car's not a person, therefore nobody gets in trouble. But this is also happening with the driverless cars. That some driverless cars are getting pulled over and there's no one to issue a ticket to. So there needs to be a framework of responsibility for these things that are running amok on their own.
So when you're talking about the driverless cars getting tickets, like, is that
Yes.
happening? Like, really?
Yes. Yes.
So are these Waymos or are
Yes.
these?
Yeah.
So the taxis
Yeah.
are getting pulled over and getting tickets.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they're not
This
getting
is-
tickets because there's
well,
no one
they're
to
not.
issue a ticket to.
But this is very different from the quote unquote, auto driving that
Mhm.
some other car companies have been
Yeah.
having, where there has to be a person at the steering wheel
Right.
while that mode is engaged, so that a person could hit the brakes or turn the wheel
Yeah.
if needed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is different. So, but point being, no matter which one it is, there needs to be responsibility, right? And if I'm driving a car and I'm using the auto drive feature or whatever it's called, and I have an accident, I am behind the wheel, I am culpable. But if no one is behind the wheel, no one is culpable. If no one is actively chatting with the teenager who hurts themselves or someone else, no one is culpable. So I feel like that needs to be discussed way before what is consciousness, what rights should these programs have. Let's deal with the fallout of what's currently happening and who's responsible for these programs first. I don't.
I think you're exactly right. I think that the responsibility is the thing that we should be focusing on first. And I believe that this review and its call for urgency with the, oh my gosh, what if this happens and society is not ready for it? It's like, okay, well, there's a lot of stuff that society is not ready for, but
Yeah.
we're just going through it anyway.
Yeah, what
right?
about what's happening right now?
Yes, and there is a lot of fallacy in what is being sold to us under the guise of AI for this march toward an inevitable future. Okay, number one, why is it inevitable? Number two, they are playing at game theory where the only players in their game are hawks, where there are no doves, where they assume that every company and every government out there is exactly as greedy and terrible and fearful as they are. And so because of that, if we don't do it, if we don't get to quote unquote AGI first, someone else is going to do it. So we have to. And so that is this inexorable march that we are on, that papers like this are stemming from. And there's a panic that is coming from this argument based on a logical fallacy. Everything that we are being sold is irrational and illogical, and I don't agree that we need to accept the urgency, and that as society, what you said is exactly right, Blair. We need to, as society, push back and say, no, what is your responsibility to us? Your civic responsibility. This is where civic and science come together.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, you're so right. Yeah. So anyway, I forgot about worms. I was going to be done. I forgot about worms. I have a question for everyone, though. I want to hear from you. Do you think we need to really jump on the consciousness? Do we need to understand consciousness badly right now? Or I want you to email me. Tell me, what do you think about not artificial not so intelligence and research on consciousness?
I say scrap it. Let's start over.
Oh gosh, can we? Seriously, I'm ready. The worms. Let's get rid of worms.
Oh
Worms
no, we
cause
need worms.
No. Those are good earthworms, garden worms, worms that are good for decomposition, the creation of soil, all that. Those worms are great. But the worms that get into people and cause disease, those are not so great. They cause lots of lost life across the globe. And unlike measles in the United States at the moment, which seems to be having a moment. Oh my gosh. Our map is just glowing red with measles cases, everyone. Get vaccinated. Vaccinate your kids, please. Guinea worm. The Carter Center has announced that guinea worm, also known as Dronunculus medinensis, it's transmitted in water. It's parasitic. Usually there are little copepods, and you drink the water, the copepod gets in, blah, blah, blah. The parasites get through your intestinal tract, migrate into your body, and then they create little cysts. Oops, I moved around too much. Little cysts. They birth more worms, and then noodle-length worms come out of painful blisters in your skin.
Noodles can be a lot of lengths, though.
Like spaghetti noodle length, like 12 inches. Come on, like long spaghetti noodles, long. It can take a long time. So weeks and weeks of a foot-long worm to come out of your skin. It's really painful. And people will go to the water to ease their pain. And when they do that, they usually get more parasites or release the parasites into the water, which is used by other people for bathing and water and all
boy.
all that.
The worms are doing it on purpose.
Yeah, it's the worm cycle.
Yes.
But so they're painful, but they can also cause infection and sepsis and disability. And in 1986, there were 3.5 million cases across Africa and Asia, 21 countries. In 2024, there were just 15 cases. 2025, 10. That's it. So we have been working as a society, the World Health Organization.
Oh, that thing that we bailed on?
Yes.
Okay, gosh.
Countries where there were cases, 4 in Chad, 4 in Ethiopia, 2 in Sudan. This article, Ars Technica, Beth Mole, she's done some great work on this. Close. The eradication program is there. They are preventing cases. They have been stopping through financial incentives very often. They'd offer cash rewards for reporting cases. They are finding transmission sources and figuring out how to prevent in a particular area. They're doing public education on the worm, on wound care, safe water drinking practices, and also using larvicides to treat water that might be infected. But we've gone down from 3.5 million cases to 10 in 4 countries.
That's amazing.
That's better than measles.
Yeah.
When we work together through education and effort to eradicate diseases, we can do amazing things. Go get vaccinated, everyone. Update yourself, especially if you are older. Measles vaccine from childhood does not last forever. So if you're older, your titers might be low and you may be susceptible to measles. So please go check your titers if you're not sure. I'm done. I did all the stories. All of them. Did you do all your stories?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thanks for being here. Sorry for keeping you up late, Blair.
That's okay. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. I had fun.
I got to do my AI rant.
Yes, it was a good one. I really liked it. Oh, here, Eric Knapp is saying former President Jimmy Carter drove this work. He would say it was a race to see if it was him or the guinea worm that was extinct first. Based on the numbers, we know Carter just died this last year, and based on the numbers, it was a very close race. Pretty close. I think that was like a sliding into home kind of result right there. Thanks for that, Eric. And there's good news out there. There is good news out there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Bada, thank you so much for your help on show notes and social media. Absolutely appreciate it. Everyone in the chat room, thank you for chatting and your funny comments and the fun that was had in there. It was so great. Gord, Aaand Lore, and everyone who helps make sure the chat rooms are good places to be. Thank you for putting in that extra effort. Identity 4, thank you for recording the show. And Rachel, thank you for editing. And to our Patreon sponsors, I say your names. Thank you to Aaron Anathema, Adam Mishkan, Alan Viola, Ali Coffin, Andrew Swanson, Artem, Arthur Kepler, Bob Calder, Bob Coles, Brendan Minish, Brian Carrington, Chris Wozniak, Christopher Dreyer, Christopher Rappin, Craig Landon, Craig Potts, Daryl Myshak, Steve Wilkinson, David E. Youngblood, Don Mundus, Donovan Styles, aka Don Stylo, EO, Eden Mundell, Eric Knapp, Flying Out, Fredis 104, G. Burton Latifor, George Chorus, Greg Briggs, Jack Jason Olds, John Atwood, John McKee, John Ratnaswamy, John Gridley, Ken Hayes, Kenton Northcote, Kevin Parachan, Kevin Breeden, Kurt Larson, Lon Makes, Lauren Gifford, Barry Gertz, Marjorie, Mark Hessenflow, Mark Jenkins, Noodles, Patrick Beccararo, Paul D. Disney, Paul Rodovich, Philip Shane, Pierre Velazar, Richard Batch, Robert Norland, Robert Farley, Rodney Lewis, Rudy Garcia, Remy Day, Sean Clarence Lab, Shu, Bruce, Stephen Albrion, Steve Leisman, aka Zima, Sue Doster, Teresa Smith, Tony Steele, Vagard, Chef's Dad. Woo-hoo. Thank you so much for your support on Patreon. We can't do it without you. If any of you would like to support us on Patreon, head on over to twis.org and click on that Patreon link on next week's show.
We will be back on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific time, broadcasting live from our Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook channels.
Oh, yeah. And if you want to listen to us as a podcast, just look for This Week in Science wherever you listen to podcasts. And get your friends to subscribe, too. Come on.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes and links to stories will be available on our website. That's at www.twis.org. And you can sign up for a newsletter, and maybe someday it'll come.
I have dreams. You have to have dreams. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you want us to cover or address, please let us know. One of our social media channels or send us an email. Just put TWIS in the subject line so your email doesn't get spam filtered into a guinea worm larva. Da, 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 da.
We look forward to discussing science news with you again next week. And if you've learned anything from the show, remember,
it's how it
This week in science. This week in science. This week in science. This week in science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth. And I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science.
Science.
This Week in Science.
It's the after show, but it's not because I don't know. I think we're like all growing up a little bit. I don't know. It's 10:24 here. We did a nice long show, Blair. I'm sorry, but
It's
not.
okay.
It was
We
fun.
had a great time.
It was good. I hope everyone had a great time. Is it sleepy time now? Yes. And I've got Sleepytime Tea upstairs that I will be heating up for myself. A nice little, I like the Sleepytime Tea. It's tasty. I don't know if it actually makes me sleepy, but I like the warmness and the flavor is nice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's I think herbal tea stuff is like it's straddling homeopathy.
Straddles the woo.
Yes, it straddles the woo, but some of it is real. Like the peppermint does real things to your body. Like ginger does real things to your body. Like there are parts that are real. There are parts that definitely are not. So it's, it's whatever you want it to be. Plus the placebo effect is real. So if you think that the Sleepytime Tea helps you feel sleepy, then it probably does. Whether it's by an actual chemical reaction or by your brain telling you that Sleepytime Tea makes you sleepy, it's the same results.
Look, you're talking about it and now I'm yawning. It worked. We talked about it and now I'm yawning. It's perfect. Well, herbal teas are fantastic. Yes, Paul Disney. They're great. We have to go back and visit Dave Friedel in Colorado again. Well, he's actually in Washington State now, but if he
gosh. Yeah.
I want to go to the
Celestial Seasonings.
Celestial Seasonings tour that you went on.
What's the deal with them? They're like They have a weird dark backstory.
Do they?
I think so, like cultish or something, but I can't remember.
Now I want to know. It's just a family of people who put things in tea. It was a
cult. Yeah. So they were part of a cult.
I guess the celestial part. Wikipedia, that's always the best.
Oh, gosh. Where is it? But yeah, Celestial Seasonings.
1969.
Oh, yes. The distressing tie between Celestial Seasonings and eugenics. Not good. But they're not related now. So it's like it got acquired and moved and all this kind of stuff. But it's the initial family is questionable.
Oh, boy.
But
you know what? There are so many companies that had questionable beginnings. And a lot of them, many of them are still questionable. Some of them are not. Oh, boy. Yes. They got better, Paul Disney. Yes.
They got better.
Even Charles Manson came from a family. That's true. Yes. So there's everything comes from somewhere. So
fair.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Sorry.
Urantia book. Urantia book. The Urantia Foundation. What's that? I don't know what it is. Probably,
stuff.
yeah. You're like bad. Don't look at it.
Stuff.
Yeah. This is a rabbit hole. This is where I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I don't need this.
Well, anyway, you're welcome. Read up.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But I like tea. I like herbal tea at night so that it's not caffeinated and I'll stay up all the time. And look. It's just the end of the show is just in time for my yawns to really be starting. It's time. Go watch Starfleet, Fada. I need to check that show out. I haven't yet. I was trying to get Kai to watch it with me, but he's like, I don't want to watch it with you right now. He's doing very teenagery. And I'm like,
what is he, a teenager or something? It's wild.
I know. I'm like, you want to watch something with me? And he's like, no, I don't. And I'm like, oh, God. So I have like a list of things that are just like sitting there waiting for him to stop being a teenager for an evening.
Well, let me know when you watch it in a few years.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, you ready to say goodnight, Blair?
Yeah. Good night, Blair. Say goodnight, Kiki.
Good night, Kiki. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another This Week in Science episode. We'll be back, of course, next week. And next Friday, we have a special interview episode. I'm going to be doing at noon on Friday. Blair, if you are available or able.
Okay.
It's No, next Friday is not. The 25th, we have an interview with a researcher who studies astrocytes in the brain.
Okay.
But the 13th, we are going to be speaking, and of course, Goldstein.
What day of the week? Wait, when? The 13th.
The 13th. It's a Friday. Next Friday, the 13th. Rebecca Newberg Goldstein. She is a MacArthur Foundation Award winner. She's written a book, The Mattering Instinct. How wanting to matter drives us and divides us.
Interesting.
Yeah. If you want me to send you the link, do you want me to send you the book info? And if you can make it on Friday, like
Send it all to me. Maybe I can only join for half an hour during my lunch break, but
that's kind of the plan. I like doing like half hour interviews, like around noon on a Friday, if we can make it happen. If that works for you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yay. All right, so that's next Friday. But next Wednesday is our normal show, and we'll be there. I hope that everyone out there, all of you in the chat room, all of you watching now, I hope that you'll be there too. We'll see you next week. Good night, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay curious, and stay lucky. La, la, la.